Recently, journalist Rob Inglis, seen here modelling last season's range of best and less, shout out Project Sanchez, he works for the Examiner and recently he shared that SMH attack piece on me, then quickly deleted the post soon after because, who'd have guessed, Doughboy's soft. In it he wrote, "Good article about a bad person." His words. Yet somehow, as outlined in his very thought-provoking think piece, Labor needs to distance itself from vlogger-friendly Geordies. He took issue with me calling that article a hit piece, despite then going on to regurgitate the exact same accusations and themes outlined in it, but in a much whinier and faux indignant tone. It was honestly the written equivalent of a mosquito trapped in an air conditioner on the fritz. In fact, I had a host of questions I wanted to ask Rob. I reached out to him twice, and for some reason, after what we did to James O'Doherty from The Telegraph, he was a little shy. Oh, that's all right, champ. I'll just leave those questions here. Feel free to answer them whenever you like, Rob. My first question is in regards to your opening sentence. I'm no comedian, but I do know the golden rule of comedy, and that is to never punch down. Well, that's embarrassing, Rob, because anyone who's read even a single joke book would tell you that the golden rule is the rule of three, and the secret golden rule is that only hacks believe in golden rules. So I guess my second question is, do you have any original thoughts? Your opinion piece doesn't have a single original opinion in it. Your concept of comedy is exactly what every loser on Twitter and Reddit says whenever they're offended personally by a joke. Punching down. But quick humour tutorial from a guy that's read a PhD's worth of books on humour theory, okay? Humour theory is filled with example after example, anthropological, sociological, neurological, of punching down being funny as f***. On top of that, I actually am a comedian, Rob. I deliver punchlines for a living, unlike you, who is a living punchline. And I'm definitely punching down by focusing on you. You're a journalist in Launceston. I don't even tour there. If someone offered me $500,000 for a single night extravaganza, I'm still not going. There's enough haunted prisons in Sydney. But I can assure you, Rob, even though I am punching down, many people are laughing at the fact you have a career. And if they aren't, they will be, as this is a two-parter. Are you going to revoke your objectively false statements on punching down? And second, can you shut the up about comedy? Your understanding of a joke, however narrow, eye-rollingly pompous, and ironically unprovocative it is, when the upper echelons of society, those with privilege, wealth and power, are made the subject of a joke, that's genuinely provocative, genuinely subversive. That's your definition of good humour. Would just like to stress that that is certainly not mine. Mine can be best summed up as see American Pie Bandcamp. But that being the case, why do you have issue with me making fun of the Deputy Premier of New South Wales? A guy that I'm pretty sure is worth tens of millions of dollars at a minimum and holds the second most powerful position in the most powerful state of one of the top 20 most powerful countries on earth. Yet according to you, John Barilaro doesn't have enough privilege, wealth and power to be made fun of. Such high expectations of my profession, Rob. If only they flowed over to your own. I looked at 40 articles at your publications written about your local Liberal federal member Bridget Archer. You know how many of them were either positive or just complete lifts from press releases? 40. 40 out of 40 were positive. She's that good, eh? Obviously, as frequenters of this channel would be well aware, Liberals are perfect in every way, and the Examiner is not afraid to tell it like it is. Their coverage of the Premier of Tasmania, also a local member, also a Liberal, another perfect score, 40 out of 40. Another local Liberal, Sarah Courtney, only achieved a lowly 38 out of 40 positive articles. Oh, a room for improvement, says. One politely asks her to focus on something. I guess that sort of counts as criticism. While the other is a good old-fashioned, no-holds-barred scolding, an expose that claims Sarah Courtney admits to preferring to dance when no one's watching. Ooh, exposed. The Liberals' Michael Ferguson, 39 out of 40. Hey, that's almost premier material. The negative one written by Rob himself, outlining that he failed to disclose nearly $100,000 of taxpayer money being spent on outside consultants to make an infrastructure plan that didn't have any plans in it. Well, I can see how no one would regard that as a complete waste of money. Neither does Rob, apparently. Fair and balanced as he is, characterising that as an honest mistake. You sure that isn't blatant corruption, you who thinks comedians should only joke about the powerful and privileged? Why do you as a journalist then never hold the powerful and privileged to account? Why do you let him get away with giving $93,000 of taxpayer money to consultants for the service of making a PDF with a bunch of Wikipedia facts in it. Because I learnt from an actual journalist, Callum Foote, who works for Michael West, that MPs in power get an advertising budget of around $130,000 each. He also told me that local members threaten all the time not to spend any of that money in ads in local papers should they receive negative coverage, which we certainly can't accuse the Examiner of, as when you examine their coverage of the Liberals, out of 160 articles, 3 are sort of, maybe, kind of negative a little bit. So here's my question, Rob. Do you honestly think you're a journalist? Or are you at least self-aware enough to know that you're an embedded PR hack for the Liberal Party whose job is to excuse and cover up their rampant corruption? Do you even know who your owners are, Rob? Your parent company's ACM. That's a conglomeration of all the newspapers Fairfax rejected. 170 publications, half owned by Alex Waislitz, a man rich from his close ties to the Pratt family, who are some of the biggest tax dodgers in the country. On around $328 million in income, they paid about $18 million in tax. That means they paid around a 5% tax rate when the corporate tax rate is 30%, and that's on a company worth billions. So you're telling me they should have only been paying tax on $328 million over 4 years anyway? My next question would be, why are you so cool with corruption? Why is it that when you're directly talking about it in your articles, you won't acknowledge it? How come when you discuss it in the Bruz video, which is 27 minutes of provable, highlighted corruption, you gloss over all of it as alleged corruption, yet you really seem to take issue with resorting to childish name-calling, with exaggerated voiceovers imitating an Italian accent, seeming to play on Barilaro's racial heritage? Mamma mia. Why is it that blue-check clods such as yourself continually mock outrage over phrases people say, and never what people do, especially if those people employ you? Is it because you all deep down know you're bought and sold, and so to deflect from that you attempt to moralise on something, anything, which inevitably results in arbitrary, murky, subjective, and can I just say at this point, very boring accusations of sexism, racism, homophobia, as you can't be wrong on deliberately vague terms, the problem with that being, you're actually not saying anything either. Particularly when you actually look at who this gaggle of half-wits decide to label with these smears, and which people they don't. At which point you've got to ask, do you even care about this shit? We can easily put it to the test. As you know who owns the other 50% of the company you work for? Anthony Catalano. That's right, the party boy himself. Rumours of coke and hookers abound all around his domain. He also nabbed the dubious title as the first Australian CEO casualty of the Me Too era. Who by? Fairfax. Oh dear, we are in trouble now, aren't we? What are you going to do, Rob? Sit there and claim that their article on him is bad, but their article on me is good? To paraphrase the article that you so weakly defended, what to do with a problem like your boss? After all, you can replace me with Anthony and you with Labor in virtually every sentence in the second half of your article. Examples include, Rob English would be wise to distance himself from his employer, Anthony Catalano. He would be wiser still to condemn some of the offensive comments that Anthony Catalano has made instead of just appearing in his newspaper for a job and forgetting about everything else. Otherwise, it can be only assumed that Rob's silence is a tacit endorsement. Your words. Now I think it's time for you to answer a couple of your own questions. Does Rob Inglis agree with his employer, Anthony Catalano, having, quote, white parties where, quote, the disabled toilet was popular? If so, he shouldn't. Does Rob Inglis see nothing wrong with his boss's womanising work culture? If so, he should. Just as Rob Inglis should condemn media commentators who consistently say outrageous things, Friendly Geordies comes to mind, so should he do the same with his boss, Anthony Catalano. Your decision to seemingly brush aside the darker aspects of your employer is unprincipled. So I guess my final question is, what the f*** you gonna do, Rob? To quote you one more time, just because it's so very fun, I think you need to rethink your relationship with your newspaper. Otherwise, people might start to suspect that you're amoral and don't actually care about anything except keeping your job. Like this video and subscribe if you think that Rob writing an article denouncing his employer is the only way he can possibly save face at this point. Really looking forward to seeing your answers to these questions, mate.
Please share and comment below. Comment.